everyone, my name's Lisa. I'm the primary otter keeper here at your Akron Zoo, and today is Lunch and Learn. We're going to talk about some of the training and different things we do with our otter. Just in case you're wondering, first of all, why I'm wearing the mask and gloves, after we found out about the tiger at Bronx Zoo last week, we did put some extra safety measures in place, so all of this is just for Molly's safety. Otherwise, we're all healthy here. So first we're going to go into some of the training that we do with our otters. We'll get into some general facts later on. So I've got some stuff laid out here on the table that we use with our otters. We do a lot of training here with a lot of our animals for different vet procedures and different things we might need to do with our animals throughout the day. So that's what all of this is for. The first thing I want to show you is this is what we call a target pole. It's just a very basic pole, actually a wooden dowel rod that's painted on one end. We train the otters to touch their nose to this. It's a very basic behavior, usually the first thing we start out with. And once they get the hang of this, you can actually use the target to then train other behaviors, like some of the stuff we're going to see here. So we have this nice little stuffed otter from our gift shop that we're going to use to help us demonstrate some of the things we do. So in the holdings, we actually have two tubes like this mounted to the mesh, and the otters are trained to come into the tube, and all that does is it presses their side or their stomach up against the mesh. In one tube, we train for hip injections. So this is an empty syringe. It just has a paper clip through it. It's a very blunt end, doesn't hurt anybody, but we can train the otters to stay calm for hip injections so that if we ever need to give them vaccinations or if they need to be put under anesthesia for an exam, we can do that without stressing them out. In the other tube, they come in and actually show us their stomach, and we have special holes cut in our mesh where we can actually do ultrasounding across their body that way. So that really helps us keep track of their health without having to put them under anesthesia all the time. Next, this is what we call our x-ray box. This has a special plate in it where our vet staff can actually slide an x-ray plate into the bottom of this. We train our otters to come in like this. This plexi piece on the top actually just helps flatten their abdomen a little bit, and we have a special place where we hang an x-ray machine inside, and we can take portable x-rays directly in the building, and our x-ray plate actually has a Wi-Fi chip in it, so our vet can be in the very next room checking those x-rays as we take them, and it makes it very easy to see if we need to reposition the animal or if we got the shot we needed. Again, this really helps just take care of the otters without having to put them under anesthesia for anything. And next we have our crate. This may look similar to the crate you use for a small dog or cat. It actually is the same sort of crate. We just modified the door. So this crate can actually be mounted directly to the side of one of the bedrooms inside. And we have a special door that we can lift up, and the otters can go directly from their holding into the crate. And that way, if we do ever have to move them for any reason, if we have a maintenance issue or for a vet exam, again, this is a lot less stress on them if they're comfortable with the crate. And this plexi door on the front just helps us make sure that the otters don't try to scratch anything or hurt themselves in transport too. So we're going to move over here to Molly at the training wall in just a second. I do want to let everyone know that she is the only otter we have at the moment. Unfortunately, the male that we had last fall did pass away. However, we are working with the North American River Otter SSP to bring in another mate for her later this year. Unfortunately, at the time of Odie's passing, all the other males that would be compatible with her were part of other breeding programs. So we're just now at the end of otter breeding season. So we will probably have a mate for her later this year. The good news is that Molly herself is a very independent otter. While she enjoys having a mate around, she also enjoys being by herself. We are keeping a very close eye on her behavior, and she is doing great. So we're going to head over to the training wall here. I'm going to have her target a little bit, also stand up. At the current time, we are also working on an open mouth behavior so that we can keep track of her teeth and her tongue. Otters, because of the fact that a lot of the food they eat is pretty soft and mushy, they can develop a lot of dental problems. Molly's had a couple in her past, so we're just trying to make sure we can keep an eye on those teeth. Molly. Up. Good. Up. Good. Up. Open. 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 She's not used to doing that one outside yet. Good. So what we're using to feed Molly here is actually her midday diet. What I'm using right now is smelt, and in just a few minutes she's actually going to get some herring that I'll toss out from inside the building. These guys actually have a very, very high metabolism, so because of that they actually get fed multiple times a day. So they get fish and a type of meat when we come in the morning, and then at midday they get these smelt and herring, and then in the evening she actually gets a type of cat chow and some carrots and other veggies mixed in, and that cat chow helps replace the nutrients that may be lost in different types of fish, and the harder substance actually helps clean her teeth as well. Good. So you can see when she stands up, we can get a really good look at her body. That allows us to look over her underside and her paws. If she does have any injuries, we can use that behavior to check those. Good.
So Layla wants to know, how much does Molly weigh?
She right now is about 13 pounds. Their weight actually does vary seasonally, so right now is usually her heaviest. They get heavy in the winter and breeding season. Within the next month she'll start losing a little bit too, and be nice and slim for summertime. Alright, so Patty, if you want to take over for a second, I'll head in and throw the rest of the fish out for her, and you guys can see her swimming too.
All right. Thank you, Lisa. So North American river otters are a species that are found here in Ohio. They used to be very abundant until the European settlers moved into the state, and they started hunting otters for their fur. And the reason why it's so popular is because they actually have waterproof fur. And it also helps keep them nice and warm, so that was very popular in the fur trade. We also had pollution in our waterways, so it was kind of a double whammy for the North American river otter, and they were actually removed from the state or extirpated. Well, the Division of Wildlife started to work in cleaning up our waterways, and they actually brought over 100 North American river otters from states like Louisiana and Arkansas, where they already had a healthy population. They took those animals, reintroduced them into the state, and they have been found in now about 83 counties here in Ohio. So they have been making a comeback. So if you've ever been near a nice waterway, is she gonna eat that with the straw in her mouth? You might be lucky to see an otter. Now these animals are semi-aquatic. They're adapted for life on land and also in the water. On land, they can run about 15 miles per hour. In the water, they can swim about 7 miles per hour. They have that really cool streamlined body that helps cut them through the water. Their tail they use as a rudder. They can close their ears and their nose, and they can actually stay underwater for about 6 to 8 minutes. So that allows them plenty of time to search for a variety of foods. Otters really aren't that picky. They'll eat a variety of things from fish, like she is demonstrating right now, to crayfish, to frogs. They will eat bird eggs, they will eat birds, they will eat other small mammals, and even small reptiles. Now, for the most part, an adult river otter really doesn't have very many predators. They're very fast, they're very smart, they have escape routes. Younger otters could be preyed upon by birds of prey, bobcats, down south alligators, and even coyotes have been known to try to grab a hold of an otter. Well, I see Miss Lisa is back.
So we've got some questions coming in. So are we able to pet the otters?
No. So these guys are North American river otters. Let me see if I can get her attention to come up to the glass here. Oh, no, she's going to go first swim, apparently. So these guys are North American river otters. They have very, very sharp teeth and claws. All otters are part of the carnivore family, which means they have those big canine teeth. So even though she looks cute and cuddly, I don't really want to go directly in with her. Even just trying to play with me, she would probably injure me. We do get a lot of questions about that here because a lot of people do see various videos online. And a lot of the videos that are seen online are a different species called Asian small-clawed otters, which are about half the size of these guys, and they have very tiny paws and claws. So there are multiple species of otter from around the world. Asian small-claweds are the smallest, and they range all the way up to the size of a giant Amazon river otter, which is about 5 feet long. There we go. Now she's going to go in the pool for you.
So how much in a day do otters sleep?
That varies depending on the individual otter and the species. She does sleep a lot overnight, and then during the day you will see her in her log in the exhibit, napping occasionally throughout the day. A lot of times people expect them to be in the pool continuously, but I like to compare it to the fact that these habitats are the animals' homes. So just like you are probably not running around your house continuously through every day, these guys also like to sit on their proverbial couches occasionally. So if you don't see her in the water, check the hollow logs on exhibit. She's probably sitting in there.
So Chloe would like to know what her fur feels like.
It is very soft, but as you can see, the outer layer is a little bit coarser. They do have 2 layers of fur. They have an undercoat, which is very downy and soft, and then this overcoat actually helps them repel water a bit. And the way they actually stay warm in the water is that when they dive under, air gets trapped between those 2 layers, and that's how they actually stay warm during the cold winter months. These guys are native to this area. They can handle our temperatures just fine without a problem. But they will grow a little bit of a thicker winter coat. She is barely starting to shed right now. If you come to the zoo in spring or fall, we do have a sign up. Sometimes Molly is not the best at grooming herself. We give her different types of substrates and mats to rub on. But every once in a while, for a few weeks, she does look a little ragged just because she's shedding out that fur and getting some new ones back in.
Does Molly know her name?
She does have some recognition. Like I said, we do a lot of training with these guys. With all the items I showed you earlier, I'm usually in here training at least 3 to 4 days a week. So she does have some bit of name recognition, although just like a small child, she may choose to ignore us occasionally.
So Kennedy wants to know if they have any teeth.
They do have a lot of teeth. I'm not sure on the exact number at the moment, but as I said, they are carnivores. So they have big canine teeth. Think along the same type as a dog or cat that you might have at home that has those big front canine teeth. These guys have the same thing. They're just a bit smaller.
What temperature do we keep the water at?
So the pool is heated for winter time. It stays at roughly about 55 degrees. For summertime, actually, we don't have a chiller on it. It varies with the air temperature. As I said, these guys are native to this area. They can handle all our temperatures just fine. The only reason it's really heated in the winter is to make sure that it doesn't ice over and create other issues. But we actually do daily water tests every morning in here, so we make sure all the water quality is safe for her to be out in.
It's a potty break time. So is there a good area in Ohio to go to see otters in their native habitat?
They are starting to come back to this area. They're still more prevalent in the south, but we do know of a wild pair that lives near the Beaver Marsh area of the national park here. And if you go to the park's website or call them, I know during the summer they usually do have programs for people to try to see the otters at certain times. They're not necessarily active all day in that same region, but I know the park does have special programs for that.
So how old is Molly?
Molly is now 9.
Has she had any babies?
No, she is not. We've had her paired with a couple males, seen some good behaviors from them, but unfortunately have not gotten babies yet.
So how fast can otters swim?
Oh, I actually don't know that one off the top of my head, but it's pretty fast.
Stand by, we're getting the answer for you.
Okay, we just found that answer, and it is 7 miles an hour. So keep in mind there are various species of otters, so different species may be at different speeds too.
So is Molly asking for more food by heading over to the training wall still?
She's just interested in that because we use that wall a few times a year for special programs, and she knows that if she goes over there, something's about to happen, whether it's training, feeding, something special. So she's just interested because that's not necessarily a daily thing. So she's just going over to check it out, being curious. Otters do tend to be very curious animals and like to get into anything and everything. So yeah, she's just checking it out right now. But she's now had her full midday diet, and she will get her afternoon diet a little later this afternoon.
So Gretchen wants to know, how do they clean their teeth?
So you'll actually see them sometimes right after they eat. They'll use their front claws to actually dig at their mouth a little bit, and that just helps them remove anything that might be stuck there.
So how long can otters live?
The median age is actually 12. So Molly's starting to get up there, not really old yet. We have had some that have lived to late teens, even early 20s, but the average is 12.
Lexi wants to know if she can recognize different people.
A little bit. She does tend to recognize our zoo staff here, mostly based on the uniforms that we wear. She does recognize those of us keepers who work with her on a regular basis pretty easily.
So Miko is asking, how smart are otters?
They are incredibly smart. That's part of the reason why we do so much training and enrichment with them. And what you see her playing on right now is a giant pill toy there in the pool. We actually put various types of enrichment out here every day for them on exhibit, and then she also has multiple areas inside that she comes into that all have special stuff in them for in the evenings. So we make sure these guys stay mentally active all the time because they do need that mental stimulation.
So Ellie wants to know if otters are curious.
They are very, very curious. We always have to be careful about watching anything on the exhibit that could be a danger to them. Even today's a bit windy, so we're going to be checking to see if any foreign objects get blown into the exhibit. They are very, very curious animals, and they will test out anything and everything.
So Kennedy wants to know, how long can otters hold their breath?
That is up to 8 minutes.
Miles is asking, how long are their bodies?
That actually varies individually from otter to otter. Molly is about 3.5 feet long, but our other males have been longer than she is. She's a relatively small otter too.
So, how many times a day do they get fed?
They get fed 3 times a day, but the evening diet that they get about the time that we close to the public is actually that kibble diet that I was talking about. So they have access to that diet throughout the night.
So, a lot of people love this feature that we have here where you can press the button and it turns on a shower. So we do turn that off in the winter months, but you talk about what that does for the otters.
So yeah, that's our otter shower. What that does is there is a shower head mounted above the pool, and it will spray water down just like a normal shower head, and it's a bit of enrichment for the otters. So it gives them something new that isn't there all the time, but it just lets them interact with something a little bit different. As Elena mentioned, we do have to shut that off during the winter so that our pipes don't freeze, but I'm sure we will have it up and running at some point for this summer.
So how many keepers do the otters have?
We have now about 6 to 7 keepers that work with her regularly. We now rotate a little less often than we used to, but I am the primary keeper, so I'm in here a few days a week, and then other keepers regularly work this area every week or two.
So Lena wants to know what other animals are otters related to?
They're actually called mustelids, which means they're related to skunks and ferrets. They actually have very powerful scent glands at the base of their tail. You can actually see right now what she's doing is get into that. There's a Firehose hammock right next to that log. So that's one of the options we give her to kind of rub down her coat and get all the old stuff out when she sheds. And just a minute ago, you saw her rubbing up on the upper rock there. So besides using the scent glands at the base of their tail, these guys can rub their scent, just like she's doing right now.
So Tessa wants to know, are otters endangered?
I believe they are endangered. They are coming back. So the river otter species survival program is actually one of the success stories of the SSPs. So otter pups do have the potential of eventually being released back to the wild. That's part of the reason these breeding programs are so important. So as I said, their numbers are coming back now a lot more in the south because of these release programs, and now we're actually starting to see their numbers back up here.
Noah wants to know if Molly has good eyesight.
They do. I wouldn't say it's the best, but they do have pretty good eyesight. That is one of the things that, just like humans, that can start to deteriorate as they get older. They definitely also have a very strong sense of smell. Whenever there's fish around the area, she definitely knows it.
Just know a lot of these questions we have already answered, so we encourage you to go back and watch the video to hear your questions get answered. As you can hear, the wolves and coyotes are saying hello. The sounds of the zoo. So is Molly playful?
She is very playful. She has actually a few enrichment items that are her favorites. One of which is actually what's referred to as a jolly apple toy. It's actually supposed to be a hoofstock toy for animals like horses or goats. It has a little bit of an apple scent to it, but it's just a plastic toy that is shaped like an apple. But for some reason, she absolutely loves the thing and will play with it for hours on end.
All right, Kaden, I don't know if you heard that. That answered your question as well. So what kind of temperatures require otters to stay inside?
That's only when it gets really, really cold. Pretty much during the winter here, when it's below 20, she will have access inside, so she will have her choice of being in or out. The only time we actually keep her in is when it's single digits, close to 0 or below. That's just so that she doesn't stay out here too long But yeah, pretty much these guys can handle our winters really well.
So Grace wants to know, how long can Molly stay underwater?
They can hold their breath up to 8 minutes. She herself doesn't tend to stay under that long. Generally, you'll see her swimming in the pool and coming up for air every 30 seconds to a minute.
So Riley wants to know, do otters shed their fur?
Yes, they shed in the spring and fall. So right now she's still got some of her winter coat in. She hasn't fully started to shed yet. I'm guessing that's going to be happening in the next few weeks here. But they get a fluffy winter coat in, shed that out in the spring, and then in the fall they'll regrow that thicker coat back in.
So Brian wants to know, why is Molly so perfect?
I have to say, I'm a little biased, so she is pretty perfect too.
So was Molly born here at the zoo?
No, she came to us, I'm trying to remember the exact place she came from, but she came to us in early 2013 when we built the Grizzly Ridge area. So she has been here for the past 7 years now.
So Carolyn wants to know, are otters cuddly?
We do not go in with these guys. I know they look cute and cuddly, but they still have very sharp teeth and claws. So we do not interact with them that way. However, when there are 2 or more of them, they can get cuddly with each other.
So Christine, I know you've asked how many otters that we've had. We did talk about that at the beginning of the video. We do have just the one otter, Molly. Trying to see what other new questions we have.
I think she's decided it's nap time.
So Elijah wants to know, sometimes when he visits, Molly wants to play with him, and sometimes she doesn't. So are there colors or other things that they are attracted to?
For her, it's not really colors. She does enjoy interacting with people at the window, especially when she's in the pool. For me, she will follow my water bottle around. But the other thing is that we like to give our animals choices. So if she's sleeping in her log or doing something else, that's her choice. And we don't want to force them to interact or do anything that they don't want to do.
So Miles is asking if you can repeat the information about the otters in Cuyahoga Valley National Park at the Beaver Marsh.
So we do know of a wild pair of otters that lives up in the Beaver Marsh area. Please check the info from Cuyahoga Valley National Park to learn more. I know they do usually offer different programs to possibly see those otters, but with the issues this year, with everybody having to cancel programs, I'm not sure what the status of this year's will be.
Okay. Layla wants to know, do otters get ice cream for their birthday?
No, so not the same sort of ice cream that you and I would get. We do make special enrichment for their birthdays sometimes, and what she gets occasionally are what we call ice blocks. So we'll actually freeze fish or other items that she really likes into bowls or buckets, fill them with water, put them in the freezer for a day. So they actually form these ice blocks, and we'll toss those out for her, and she really, really loves them.
So can otters be pets?
No, they do not make good pets. As you can see with our large pool over here, these guys require a large amount of water and a large amount of space. So I'm guessing that most people are not able to put this type of pool with the filter system that we have on it into their backyards.
So how much time does Molly spend in the water versus out of the water?
That really just depends on the time of year. Obviously, summertime when it's warmer, she will be in the water a little bit more. In the winter, you got to remember that winter is also breeding season for otters, so they're more concerned with being with their mate or grooming, scent marking, things like that.
So how warm is the water temperatures?
Our pool stays at about 55 degrees during the winter. During the summer, we do allow it to vary with the air temperatures. These guys can handle our temperatures in this area just fine. So there's not a problem with the water being warm. We just keep it at 55 during the winter so that we don't run into any chances of it freezing and causing other maintenance issues.
All right, I don't know if you heard that, Landon, but that also answered your question as well. So I think we've got time for about one more question. So we're getting a couple questions about, since Molly is in here alone, is she ever lonely?
No, she actually does really, really well on her own. She's always been a very independent otter. Even when we've had mates with her, sometimes she chooses to go off and do her own thing. So she is on her own for a little while right now, but we are giving her extra enrichment, extra training. We are closely monitoring her behavior so that if we do start to see any problems, we can jump on it right away and make sure we can correct that.
And then Mark, I know I said one more question, but you can go down the Otter slide. Once the zoo is reopened, winter will be over, so we'll be able to also reopen the Otter slide, and Molly will be so excited to see people going down the slide again. So, all right, well, that's all the time we have today. So thanks everyone for joining us for the Otter Lunch and Learn and hanging out with Molly and Keeper Lisa.
Yeah. Thanks for enjoying Molly, guys.